Good to see you. Good to see you. So, how's life treating you?
Oh man, life's great. Life's
Wonderful.
Great. Yeah,
Wonderful.
we're flying off the shelves.
Yes.
Happiest can be.
Yes. After this wax, I'm headed to the floor.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I'm headed to the floor to get my copy of the book, the variant cover, before they
Nice, nice. Okay, good.
So, we spoke a couple of years ago.
Yep.
The book is now out. It's flying off the shelves. How do you feel? Like,
It's such a great feeling, and you know, it's like if you build it, they will come.
yes.
You know, but the other side of that is you build it and you're just sitting around a room. And so it started off as this meme, you know, that somebody kind of posted at Allegiant M. Why don't we have a movie about this guy? One of their members, the guy Robert Whitehill, was a great novelist, had written a script. They brought it to me, and then I said, like, I don't know why I've never heard about this guy. I'm ashamed that I haven't. But let me help take it the next step. And then we started into the research and everything. So I've gotten to meet, you know, Maisha Eatman at Harvard, Michael Bulwer Moore, who's, you know, great grandson of Robert Smalls. Hopefully you'll get to talk to, and just filling out the story. And then the Kickstarter campaign goes crazy, and you know, we break records on that. And then we're kind of like, I hope the book sells. And then bam, it goes to #1 on Amazon and is flying off the shelves. I think we sold 8,000 copies so far. We've got a shipment coming in 2 weeks. I have 20,000 books, most of which are already accounted for. It is really, really, really thrilling to see what happens. It's like, you know, your little boy gets, you know, goes off and, you know, wins a Nobel Peace Prize. So, you know, and I think it needs that, because we're at a time when stories like this are getting suppressed. You know, it's tough. You know, that there are bonfires. You know, for anything that mentions Black folks.
Yeah.
So what better way to get around that than to have like a graphic novel you can just enjoy as a comic book. And as they're reading it, they're finding out all about, you know, Reconstruction and this wonderful man and the people around him.
Yeah, that's wonderful. When you're transitioning from the book to the movie,
Yeah.
what are the most important aspects of Robert Smalls' story and his personality that you have to make sure are brought over into this new project?
Oh yeah. Well, see, that's the thing. You know, after having written Princess and the Frog and Captain America: Brave New World, you realize that you know, the bigger it gets, the smaller you have to get with like what is actually happening. You know, Treasure Planet, for example, is a story about just a guy and a kid, and you know, a guy who shouldn't have a kid and a kid who needs dad, and you start there. So I say, this is a story about a guy trying to make a better life for his family.
Yeah.
You know, he realized that his son was about to get sold off. Because his wife's owner was really bad with money, and you know, his wife was on a mortgage, which I didn't know that you could buy a slave on mortgage, and we find out that weeks after they had escaped, he went bankrupt. So we know that he was on the brink of bankruptcy as we were going through the story. Robert had just had a son. They hadn't told the slave owner about it. He was afraid that the kid was going to get sold and had to do this thing at that moment. So you take that and you say, well, okay, everybody can relate to it. I have a friend who's 70-year-old white British guy, and he says, I'm inspired by this book. Am I supposed to be inspired? I said, yes, you are supposed to be inspired. It's a universal story.
Yes.
And so that's where you start. It's like, can you tell a very simple and emotional story? And take this guy, you know, through history, through this remarkable time in history, and this guy is doing amazing things through it. And can you be inspired? Can you, whoever you are in the audience, be inspired by the story of a person who was born a slave, the lowest of the low, and ascended to these heights despite everything going on against him? So that's where I start with the movie. Yeah, let's tell an epic tale that has heart and humor and passion and some great thrills.
How do you create the dialogue? So you wrote the book. Now you have to create words for people to actually say.
Yeah.
The narrative. So what does that process look like?
Well, it's funny because like every time you see these kinds of stories, there's a lot of these and they and whatever, you know, what, there's this really stiff taught. And then you go into some of the actual history, you find like, not everybody spoke like that. The Gentry did, but everybody didn't. And can you tell the story in a way, the dialogue specifically, in a way that a kid can get what it is you're saying? Can you give context to all the lines, and can you say them in a way that is, not quite modern colloquial, but somewhere in between those two? In fact, my favorite line is, I stole me. When he says, well, wait, how did you get this? How did you get this spyglass? And he says, well, it and I are considered stolen property. And no matter how you put that, if you put it in a simple emotional way, it'll get right to people. I think that's the way to go. Yeah. Yeah, great question.
So I was talking to Mama Jones a little earlier.
Oh, yeah.
And we talked about people that were within Robert Smalls' world coming in and out of the story.
Yes.
And some of them with great stories of their own.
Absolutely.
How do you feel about taking those stories and using them to continue the Defiant storyline, build out that world with all these other amazing people that help shape the stories?
I would love to, because there's, as I'm doing the research, especially with Dr. Maishi at Harvard, who's of course, I'm always asking questions like, who else is in the room? What else do I need to know? What gives context to this moment? And she starts telling me stories about all the other people, especially in Congress. There's one story I love that is this guy who was also a slave, but his father was a slave owner, as many were, as all of us who, whatever, So he started there, but he looked so much like his father that it was becoming a thing. His wife says, you got to do something. He sends the kid off to England. He goes to Eton, goes to Oxford, becomes a lawyer, becomes a prominent lawyer in London. And when slavery ends and people start running for Congress, he comes back. Right. So there's hello. I am also from South Carolina, right? And that guy runs for Congress and wins. He's sitting next to in Congress a guy who was a backyard preacher, illiterate, but extremely popular. And he winds up, they wind up sitting next to each other in Congress. I would absolutely love to tell that story. I'm fearful that there won't be time in a movie because Robert Smalls did so many things. So I'd love to do kind of like a Yellowstone verse, kind of thing, where we're telling all of these stories. Because Harriet Tubman was in there, Frederick Douglass was in there. There are famous people that were married in the Smalls house, and so there are many, many, many stories told.
The Defiant verse.
The Defiant verse. There you go.
I love it.
Okay.
So, we heard it here. Defiant verse. Look at all the stories and tell people where they can get the novel when it's back in stock and how they can keep up with the project.
Absolutely. Sold wherever books are sold. We debuted at number 1 on Amazon. We're still on the several bestseller lists, outselling books that I absolutely love. So, so we're there. We're also Barnes & Noble made a big order of stuff. So we are in actual brick and mortar bookstores.
Love it.
If you don't see it in your bookstore, ask for it. Ask for it. They will order it, and other people can enjoy it. I always say buy one for yourself, buy 2 per, right?
Yeah.
Buy one for yourself and buy one to share.
I love it.
And we'll see if we can get this thing going.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.